We've had many Superman movies over the years, and with all of them we've had many different Superman villains adapted into live action.
What do you want? Australia.
So in this video I'm ranking all of the live action villains from Superman movies from worst to best. This video contains spoilers. Before I hop into the ranking, keep in mind this is just my opinion. Share how you'd rank all these villains in the comments section down below. And without any further ado, let's hop right into it. Coming in last place is Ross Webster and his goons from Superman 3. Superman 3 might be pretty memorable for its silly elements, but its villains are very forgettable. The main guy here is just a rip-off version of Lex Luthor because they couldn't get Gene Hackman for this movie. And he has this whole evil scheme with computers, which you can tell the filmmakers had no clue how computers actually worked back then. And so just at the end of the day, there's nothing much to note here. It's just this corrupt business guy with some very over-the-top plans. And ultimately, it leads to this supercomputer being created for the final battle. Maybe I should have counted that as a villain. Does a machine count as a villain? And the only thing that makes him remotely memorable is the fact that Richard Pryor is in a lot of the scenes with him. Coming in at number 14 is Nuclear Man from Superman 4: The Quest for Peace. This is a weird superpowered being that Lex Luthor creates, and he's born in the sun. And he basically has powers similar to Superman, but he also has very long nails and electricity. They try to make him intimidating and he just comes off as super goofy, and there just aren't really many redeeming qualities for this character as a whole other than the fact that on a story level it gives Superman more of a threat. But he also is a typical dumb henchman that's powerful but is very low IQ. Speaking of low IQ dumb henchmen, coming in at number 13 is Ultraman from the new movie. And I find this to be a very frustrating instance where if you remove him from the movie, you barely have to change anything with the story. All you're doing is kind of removing some extra fight scenes, but he does not add that much to the plot. And just with him being an evil clone of Superman, once he takes that mask off, why does he look like that? They tried to make him look edgy and stuff, but give him some facial hair. And beyond that, this was an extra disappointing scenario due to the fact that there were theories going around that Henry Cavill would actually play this version of Ultraman. And before any of you go all crazy and try to be like, oh, you can't just be disappointed because your conspiracy theory didn't come true. In most cases, that's a valid point, but this is exceptional. If you look at the evidence, it all pointed to Henry Cavill being Ultraman. And even if there wasn't that whole Henry Cavill situation, at the end of the day, this is not a very good villain. Coming in at number 12 is the president of Boravia from the new Superman movie. Basically this very cartoonish, over-the-top president of this fake country who secretly works with Lex Luthor for personal gain. And that's pretty much all there is to say about him. I don't think he'll be super memorable down the road, but he was fine as kind of this side character in the movie he was in. Coming in at number 11 is Luke Benson and his mob from Superman in the Moment. If you didn't know, there was a theatrically released movie that was just under an hour starring George Reeves as Superman. He was also in the Superman TV series that decade. And you do kind of have a villain in here with the character of Luke Benson. And if you don't know, this movie is kind of about a town drills a hole and they go pretty far down in the earth and then these mole men come out, which basically means the town is responsible for summoning them. They can't really complain, but they're all scared of the mole men. They're scared that they're deadly, and Luke Benson and his mob try to kill the mole men.
Obviously, none of you can be trusted with guns.
Basically making them pretty antagonistic because they need to learn don't judge a book by its cover. And I think that all works pretty well in this movie with that pretty straightforward lesson. And the movie just does a good job of showing the influence this one man can have over everyone else. Coming in at number 10 is Doomsday from Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. And this is obviously like a big monster. He doesn't have like a personality or a character arc. But I think in the movie he's in, as Lex Luthor creates him for the final battle, I think that actually works very well into the story. A lot of people have criticized the design. I don't think it's that bad. I definitely would have changed some stuff personally, but it's ultimately nothing distracting. I mean, just at the end of the day, if you're going to have Doomsday in the final battle and make this huge action sequence, it's all done very well. Obviously, he doesn't have much screen time before he's killed, but it's not like this is a TV show, this is a movie. Coming in at number 9 is the Engineer from the new Superman movie. And unlike Ultraman, I thought she was actually a pretty good employee for Lex Luthor, where she has all these fascinating innovations that actually help drive the plot forward and make for some unique action sequences that are just very special for a Superman movie or just really comic book movie in general. But she also doesn't have a ton of development. It's not entirely clear like what her backstory or motivations are with this version of the character. Coming in at number 8 is Kevin Spacey's Lex Luthor from Superman Returns. And this is technically supposed to be the same version of Lex Luthor as Gene Hackman. But I really have a hard time thinking of Superman Returns as a sequel to the first two Superman movies.
Get bald.
You think this is funny?
And I think if you just take his performance in this movie as its own version of the character, I think his personality is very much in line with what I would want from a Lex Luthor. I would consider him more intimidating than the Gene Hackman version. But the thing that really brings this version of the character down is they continue him having the plot of wanting land. They could have done some much better stuff since it's the 21st century. They could have had him in the mech suit or doing something with LexCorp. Literally anything but real estate schemes. And so that's what really brings him down. I don't really think he plays a very good role into the story. I don't think they did the best job with him that they could have. But at least it understands his hatred for Superman, and I like the way he interacts with others. You even know from the opening scene that he's a psychopath and he'll do anything to get what he needs. Coming in at number 7 is Lex Luthor, played by Gene Hackman, who unfortunately just passed away earlier this year. This is a 10 out of 10 performance. He's very charming, he can be funny, which on that same note, he's not super intimidating, although they don't tone him down to the point where he's not a killer. You do know he has a pretty twisted mind, and I appreciate that.
My mother lives in Hackensack.
But just in this era, Lex Luthor from the comics wasn't the same as what he turned into in later years. And this live-action version of him feels the least realistic, with him wanting to bomb California and get land. It does feel a little bit corny, although I do really like the role he plays in Superman 2 where he's able to manipulate these Kryptonians. I think that works much better. And then in Superman 4, I mean, it's just kind of whatever. He's charming and it's fun that he's there, but nothing too crazy on a story level that they do with his character. Coming in at number 6 is Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor from the new movie. And let me tell you, I was very excited when I saw him in the trailers. I thought he'd be like the number 1 Superman movie villain. And in a lot of the scenes, he's very cool. He's an aura farmer. It's just done so well. It's like many of the modern interpretations of the comics. And it understands he hates Superman. You actually get to see him with the Luthor Corp. I like how he's bald the whole time. But the problem with this version of Lex Luthor is that even though in individual scenes he's very cool and it's like exactly what I want, the movie doesn't really explore his motivations much until the end, and I don't think it's done very well. He comes off as very one-dimensional, and he's just jealous of Superman or whatever. And I understand, some villains work very well with super simple motivations, but Lex Luthor, Superman's archenemy, are you kidding me?
My envy is a calling. It is the soul.
And so in that sense, he is very one note, and he just kind of feels like a crybaby almost at the end. So that knocked him down a few spots for me, unfortunately. Still a great performance by Nicholas Hoult, though. A phenomenal actor. And overall, the role he plays into this story works very well, where he's able to manipulate the government and the whole world for that matter. And he thinks of clever ways to get Superman into different traps. Coming in at number 5 is Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor. This might be the most hated version of Lex Luthor, but I think it's actually much rather misunderstood. Now, I think Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor has better scenes where he's aura farming and that kind of stuff. I like that better overall. But when it comes to the actual character depth, Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor does it better, where he views Superman as a godlike being, and because of some stuff that happened in his childhood, in his past, let's just say he has some weird opinions on Superman, and overall he plays a very good role into the story where he's able to create Doomsday, he's able to make Batman and Superman fight. He just pulls a lot of strings and is very manipulative. The reason people seem to have a problem with this version of the character is because he's not an aura farmer, he's not super confident when he's speaking, because this is just trying to be the young version of Lex Luthor. It's actually Lex Luthor Jr. And what we see in the Justice League post-credit scene, specifically the Snyder cut, because that's done better. After being in Arkham, he's actually matured a little bit.
The good doctors at Arkham helped me find some much needed clarity.
He seems more confident. Obviously, he's talking to Deathstroke. His hair is also shaved off at this point, which is good. I like Lex Luthor to be bald, and I think moving forward, we would have gotten that more confident Lex Luthor. And so this is just a deal where he really only got to be the villain for one movie. And that was supposed to be kind of a different version of the character so we could see his character development as he grew into the Lex Luthor from the modern comics. And so overall, for what they were going for, I thought it was pretty good what they did in Batman v Superman. Although despite everything I just said, I do think they did go a little bit too far with the weird noises he made.
I'll learn. No.
Ahoy, ahoy!
Coming in at number 4 is Evil Superman from Superman 3. And basically the setup for Superman turning evil in this movie, it doesn't even make sense. He's basically exposed to kryptonite and it turns him evil, which it's supposed to be a different color of kryptonite that does that. Regular kryptonite weakens him. How did the filmmakers not know this? But anyways, once he turns into Evil Superman, this just shows how good of an actor Christopher Reeve was. Because it's actually quite gradual. He just starts with him deciding not to save people, and then him turning into a menace. Like, we're talking YouTube prankster level of destruction. It's just really entertaining watching him troll people. Plus the fight scene between Clark Kent and Evil Superman is done very well, and I think it's supposed to just kind of be in his head because it's the enemy within. Coming in at number 3 is Zod and his goons from Superman 2. Which is very interesting how this list played out, because if we're just talking about comic book characters, I prefer Lex Luthor over Zod. But I just think when it comes to the movie versions of Lex Luthor, they didn't live up to their potential, whereas the Zod versions did. And in this movie, it's pretty simple. Zod comes to Earth after being trapped in the Phantom Zone for a long time with his other two buddies. And so they're obviously very angry, but they want to rule. And so first opportunity they get, they're attacking people. They're threatening them because they want to be in charge. And then they find out the son of Jor-El is here, so they have to go get him for revenge. And I think all the acting is done very well. Their costumes are kind of questionable, but I guess that was fashionable at the time. And so overall, I really enjoy watching these Kryptonians. And I think they made for a great threat that Superman had to go up against in this movie. Coming in at number 2 is Steppenwolf, and I'm not talking about that garbage version from the 2017 Justice League. I'm talking about the Snyder Cut Steppenwolf. This is just a very cool villain where he's intimidating. You know he's going to stop at nothing to achieve his goal, and he's actually given some depth as a character where you know he wants to impress Darkseid. And just from beginning to end of this movie, it's very cool seeing him fight people and interrogate people, and it's very satisfying. He's defeated by Superman in the Justice League. This is just such an underrated comic book villain. But coming in at number 1 is Michael Shannon Zod from Man of Steel. He's also in The Flash, and it was cool how they were able to incorporate him into that story as well. But this is just a case where he gave a phenomenal performance as Zod.
My soul, that is what you have taken.
He's very intimidating, and like other villains on this list, he will stop at nothing to achieve his goal. But this is also a special case where Zod considers himself the hero of his own story, where he wants to protect the Krypton race, even though his tactics are very violent, and he's not very merciful. And let me tell you, he was given some of the most chilling lines of all time. And overall, this also just made for like a phenomenal fight between him and Superman, where I would say they're pretty evenly matched, because Superman doesn't have any training, but he's better adapted to the Earth's atmosphere. And Zod is the exact opposite. He's not adapted very well at all. He just got there, but he is very well trained. He's very skilled. And so this is just a villain that will blow you away. You can find him intimidating, but also feel bad for him at the same time. But at the end of the day, that was just my ranking of the Superman movie villains. Let me know in the comment section down below how you'd rank all of them. As always, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time.